So by the end of this project, you have two things that you can actually show in an interview. Number one is a Jupyter Notebook analyzing customer data with queries, visualizations, and insights, the kind of exploratory analysis that teams would constantly do. And number two is a production DB model that transforms that analysis into a table that anyone can query. And the cool thing is you'll be building this in a modern workflow. Now you may be wondering, what is Jupyter Notebooks? And essentially it is an interactive document where code, results, and explanations live together in one file. You can write queries and results that appear right below it, charts and visualizations in literally one click, and add Markdown to share exactly what you found so that anyone who's reading this can get an idea of what you're doing, all in one shareable file. Now in this project, this is the workflow that we're going to go through. Cursor is going to talk to Jupyter through an MCP. We're going to create a notebook, query our database using PostgreSQL, create visualizations for our data, document what we've found, and we're also going to convert this to a production-ready DBT model, which is something that people would actually do in the industry. So let's just get straight into the video. So quick thing before we start, this project is actually building off these last two projects in the data engineering series. So we have the Postgres and Docker MCP one and the DBT MCP project. For this video, I'm just assuming that you have Docker running with the Postgres SQL container and the Postgres MCP configured in Cursor. If you haven't done that, don't worry. You can just go step by step in this guide right here, and it's going to run through everything that you need to get up to the same point that I am. But once you've got these green dots for Docker and Postgres with the tools enabled, then you are good to go. Now we are going to go ahead and install the Jupyter MCP. And the reason we're doing this is because we want to save time, because the regular way of using Jupyter Notebooks right here is you manually click around a browser UI, which kind of looks like this right here. And you have to create the cells, run the code, everything manually. Now on the right hand side here, you have the Jupyter MCP setup. Now here you can actually have a conversation with Cursor as you would normally use Cursor. And then Cursor sends MCP commands to the Jupyter server and will be able to execute things like insert this code or create a new cell. The Jupyter server then handles this, updates the notebook, and the results stream back to Cursor. Now you can actually see everything in Cursor without actually opening up a browser. This is way faster for exploration. Like, you just describe exactly what you want to Cursor, and Cursor is going to take care of creating the cells, writing the code, running it, showing the results all in one place. So back in Cursor now, if you don't know how to get here, all you got to do is click this little settings button on the top right. You're going to go to tools and MCPs, and we want to add a new MCP server. So in here, if you follow the steps and you have something that looks like this with the MCP service for Docker, Postgres, and maybe DBT, yours will look very similar. Just for those who are continuing on with the series, we're also in the same MCP data series folder or working directory as we were in the last couple projects. But here, I'm just going to add a comma next to this blue bracket right here. And then I'm going to go to the project guide here and I'm going to copy in this code block, which shows me the JSON that I need. I'll go back into Cursor, paste it right here, add a little backspace just because it's tidier, and hit save. Now just a quick breakdown of what's actually happening here. This command field right here is telling Cursor to use UV as the packet manager. The args are then the packages that we want to install. So we have MCP Jupyter for the MCP integration, Jupyter Labs for the notebook interface, and then a couple other dependencies as well. And env is set to Jupyter port 888. And this is where Jupyter Labs is going to run in a browser. Basically, this is telling Cursor how to start and talk to Jupyter. All right, save the file and we'll go back to settings right here. And if yours doesn't have this green dot next to Jupyter, then I'd recommend actually quitting out of Cursor and restarting it. And then hopefully you should be seeing green right here, my friend. If you are seeing errors though, remember that you are in Cursor. So you can actually get Cursor to help you out when you don't understand something, or if you don't understand any of the code that we just put in, you can also paste this into the Cursor chat and actually get answers from there. You don't want AI to do everything for you. You want to be able to understand what you are doing, but AI can be super helpful to debug and then explain what it's doing. All right, so the first thing we need to do is actually create our notebook file. And to create a Jupyter notebook in Cursor, it's actually a lot easier than you think. We just go to the top left-hand corner right here, new file. Can click into there, and I'm just going to type in demo, and the extension we need to run is IPYNB, and this extension stands for Interactive Python Notebook, and this is what Jupyter uses. All right, so we've got our empty notebook, and now we need to add cells to it. And cells are just blocks in a notebook, and some cells are used for markdown, so they're things like writing explanations, and some cells are code cells that are actually used to run code. And we're going to add 3 cells, and the first of which is markdown. So we can click this button right here. It's going to pop up a markdown cell. I'm going to add a hashtag, which is a title, and I'm going to call this customer data exploration. Now, if I press shift enter like I normally would to go to the next line, this is going to to execute my cell right here. So I want to go back and edit this. And if I just press enter normally, that will go to the next line. Now in here, I can type a goal and I want this to be bolded. So I add those couple asterisks. And let's say our goal is to connect our PostgreSQL database and examine customer distribution. I can add in some additional context as well, but I would think as context is always coming first. Essentially, if we open this notebook up 3 weeks from now, we want to be able to understand exactly what we were thinking so that anyone in the company would be able to know what this notebook is for. Once we're happy with it, we can either stop editing the cell here, or we can just press Shift Enter to execute that cell. The next cell we want to run is a code cell, and if we add a code cell at the top here, it'll add at the top, but we don't want to do that. We want to add it to the bottom. So we can click Add Code Cell here, and we need to install a PostgreSQL driver here. So I can go to the project guide, copy in this code, and then paste it into this cell right here. Now this exclamation mark is just telling Jupyter to run this as a shell command, and psycopg is what lets Python talk to PostgreSQL, if you remember the diagram from before. And then lastly, binary is just saying install the pre-built version so that this is faster. Now we want another code cell at the bottom, and this cell is our actual query that we're going to be using. Now I can copy in this query here, and you'll notice that you're supposed to put in your host, your port number, your database name, your username, and your password. I can actually take this to Cursor, paste it in, and say fill this prompt in for me, and Cursor is going to go ahead and look through all of our information in our code base and do this for me. Now while Cursor is doing that, let's look at what this code is actually doing. So firstly, it's saying import psycopg. We know that's going to load in the PostgreSQL driver library. Then we have this part right here, and this is going to open a connection to our database using our credentials, and these are our credentials right here. We then have this command right here, which is going to create a Cursor object that lets us actually run our SQL queries. This is our SQL query, so we're selecting all from app customers and a limit of 1 just to show one example. We're retrieving that query result right here, so we're showing that actual 1 row of customer data, and then we're closing the database connection when we're actually done. So back in Cursor here, I can see that Cursor has done its job. I can create a code block here and paste it in as follows. Now, best practice is just keep saving your notebook as you're going, but we have 3 different cells here, right? We've got our context right here, we've got our cell to install the database driver, and then we've got our cell to query the database. To run Jupyter Notebooks, we need to install Python packages and launch the Jupyter Lab server. Now, we can get this command from the project guide right here, but just to show you what this means, we've got 4 different packages that we're installing. We've got Jupyter Lab here, which is a notebook interface, and this is what we'll actually see in the browser like this. We've got Pandas, which handles data analysis and manipulation of our data. We've got psycopg, which actually lets Python talk to PostgreSQL. And then we've got Matplotlib, which charts and visualizes our data. So I can go back to Cursor here, and what I'm going to do is open up a terminal. If you don't know how to do that, you can go to the top here and press New Terminal. Otherwise, if you're on a Mac, you can press Command J. I'm going to paste that in. I'm going to make sure that I am in the MCP data series folder, and I'm going to paste this in. This is going to grab everything we need and set up our Python environment. So now we can go back to the project guide, and whether you're in Mac OS, Linux, or Windows, just choose whichever one you are. We can copy in this command here, and this is going to allow us to fire up our Jupyter Lab server. So we can paste this in and hit run. So here you can see that we have fired up our local host. Now in your browser, you should see a Jupyter Lab tab, and you should also see on the left-hand side demo IPYNB, the file that we just created. And that command that we just ran is essentially saying run Jupyter Lab in the current folder on port 888, that's the default port, with no password. So you should be seeing something like this in your browser that's automatically opened up. You'll notice that there is 2 cells in here. There's one because I didn't save. So I'm going to go back here and actually go ahead and save my work. And then it may take a bit of time, but when I go back to demo IPYNB, or the localhost, I can overwrite these changes, and then I should see something like this. Now, if we hit the play button, or if we hit Shift Enter on this first cell, there is no output because this is just Markdown. If we hit play on this one, you might see something like this, no matches found. And if you get this error, go back to Cursor here, and what we're gonna do is go into our new chat window here and say, I'm getting an error where it says no matches found. And I actually added a screenshot as well. Now we can just go ahead and accept those changes here. It's just done this because it's recognizing it as a file pattern. And I should be able to execute this cell. And in order to execute the cell in Cursor, you may have to enable an extension, and you can just go ahead and trust these publishers, and Cursor will do its thing and install these extensions. If it's asking for which environment, you can say an existing environment right here and hit enter. So now if you go back to localhost and you reload it, you should be seeing the changes here. And if we run this again, so I'm just going to click on this cell and hit shift enter, you can see that it was imported or audited successfully. And then lastly, we can go ahead and run our query here, and you can see that this is working well as we get our one row of data, which is exactly what we wanted. If you're getting errors, don't worry, this is normal. You can go back to the project guide, or you can also ask Cursor as we did here, and this is going to happen. But congrats, this is your first computable document working. So you've got the context explaining what you're doing, you've got code that connects to the database, and then results showing what you actually found. Now keep in mind, the cool part is that we can run the exact same stuff in Cursor as well. Now we've got data and we've got one customer record, but it's not really useful for analysis, right? We want something more comprehensive. So let's actually query all the customers and see the distribution by country. Now I could write this query myself, but we've got Cursor and the Jupyter MCP to actually help us do this. Because we can essentially say to Cursor, like, okay, I want you to create this bar chart. Cursor's going to process that. It's then going to run the commands to send to Jupyter. Jupyter's going to execute that, and then it's going to stream the results back in a beautiful bar chart or whatever chart we decide. So I could create a new chat in the top right of Cursor and say something like, using the Jupyter MCP, create a new cell in the demo IP YNB file that installs Matplotlib and then creates another cell that queries the top 10 countries by custom account for app customers and creates a bar chart visualization. So I could say something like this and then run the command right here, and Cursor is going to go ahead and do its thing. So Cursor is actually using the Jupyter MCP to create these cells in our notebook, and you'll see it thinking, it's calling the MCP tools, confirming it, creating the cells. Now I can ask Cursor to run these last two cells in the demo IP YNB file. Okay, so we can see this was executed here, and I'm just gonna quit out of here, save my changes. You can see because I was open here, Cursor wasn't able to make those changes, but I can just overwrite this right now. There we go, that's looking a lot better. So now if I open up this file right here, you can see the query that Cursor went ahead and ran. So if I execute this, shift enter, you can now see the top 10 countries by custom account. So we've got Korea in the lead. Shout out all the Koreans watching this right now. We've got some customers from Antarctica. Shout out to people watching in Antarctica. If there is actually anyone who's watching this video in Antarctica, please comment down below. That would actually make my day. And then you also have the query results as text at the bottom. I mean, looking at this chart here, you can see the distribution is actually quite similar. It's quite flat. And when you're looking at larger data sets or data sets where you'd expect there to be a lot of variation, sometimes seeing it visually is going to help you out a lot. By the way, you can go back to this localhost here and reload the page, and you should be seeing this query in here as well. And we can just go ahead and run this, and you'll see this pop up in your localhost as well. But for simplicity, I just like working in Cursor. It's a lot more efficient. Now, if you wanted to, you could also add in some color here. So I could say to Cursor, I want you to color coordinate this in a gradient style. So once Cursor's done, I can go ahead and execute this, and you can see that I now have a beautiful gradient. I mean, low-key, it's not that beautiful. I don't know why Korea is yellow, but I could change this if I wanted to. So we have our visualization here, and it's looking good, but we need to document what this means, right? We want people to see this. If they can't interpret the data, they should have some sort of written explanation. So we can go ahead and add a markdown file here, and we can just say what we actually discovered. So this visualization reveals that our customer base is quite evenly distributed across countries. Korea is leading with 18, but all the top 10 countries are within a similar range between 13 and 18. This suggests that number one, we have good geographic diversity, and number two, we don't have any over-reliance on any single market. We might need to look into this a bit further and try and understand why we're so balanced. I could even add in a heading here. I could say something like findings, and I can run this. Oops, I did not add a space. So if you wanted to see this in localhost, it's the exact same as Cursor, but we've got our context at the top, we've got our query, our additional queries, our charts, and then we have our findings at the bottom. Now this is a computable document, not just the code, because we also have the results and the full story so that anyone can understand. And this is why data teams like something like Jupyter Notebooks, because it's easy for other people to be able to read this data and understand what's going on. All right, so we've explored our data now, and we've found something interesting, right? Customer distribution distribution is balanced across countries, and that is valuable information. But the question becomes, what do we actually do with this notebook? Now, if it's just for us right here, this is just one-time analysis. So we'd maybe leave it as a notebook. But if our beautiful team right here needs this data more regularly, if people are going to query this customer distribution weekly, or they're going to build dashboards off it, then we need to productionize it. We need to make this foolproof. So that is where dbt comes in here. Now, we covered dbt in the last project, but basically it's a tool for transforming raw data into production tables with built-in testing and documentation. So in this case, we're going to use it to turn our notebook exploration into a table that anyone on the team can query. So notebooks are good for exploration, but a production-ready model has dbt usually. Now, let me show you how this works. Keep in mind that if you haven't done the last projects, you're going to need to have this dbt MCP installed, and you can get that in the project guide. So we can go to the bottom of our notebook here and add in some markdown. I could say something like, I'm going to turn my notebook query into a dbt model. This means turning my exploratory analysis into a production-ready model that my team can query from. I can go ahead and hit enter. I'm then going to open up a new cursor chat here, go to the project guide and copy in this prompt right here. So I'm just going to create a new cursor chat and I'm going to paste this in. So what cursor just did there is it actually created an SQL file that dbt will use when it builds a table in our database. So instead of running an aggregation query every time like in our notebook, dbt is going to run it once and store the results as a permanent table that anyone can query. So if we look at the diagram, we've done this right here. Now we need to go ahead and add data quality tests. And this is to make sure that nothing breaks. So we can go to the project guide here, copy in this prompt and paste it in the terminal. And this is saying using the dbt MCP create tests for the customer country summary model and ensure country is not 0, so that there is no countries in there with 0. Ensure customer count is greater than 0. Ensure country values are unique. We're just making sure that we don't have any redundant data in there. Cursor is going to create these tests in the schema.yml file right here. And once Cursor is done, we need to materialize the model and run those tests. And materializing a dbt model means that we're running it to create an actual table in our database. So right now our model is just an SQL file. And when we materialize it, dbt is going to execute that SQL and store the results as a real table that our team can then find and query. So then we can go back to the project guide here and paste this in and run this command right here. So Cursor is going to execute this model and run tests through the dbt MCP. So here you can see that the model ran successfully, which is great. That's exactly what we wanted. 3 total tests, 3 pass, 100% success rate. Let's go. But let's actually verify it actually exists in our database. So we can open up a new terminal in Cursor. We're going to take this command right here and paste it in. And what this command is doing is it's connecting us directly to the PostgreSQL database. And now we're checking that the table actually exists, which we can see that it does right here. The customer country summary is the one that we just created, right? That is our production table. So I'm just going to paste this in from the project guide, but this is saying select all from the app customer country summary table and order it by customer count, and it's just going to limit it to only show us 5. And we can see here that it's Korea, then St. Kitts and Nevis, Guernsey, Benin, I don't know, Egypt, and those are our 5. So our data is looking good. It's pre-aggregated. It's ready to use. So the final step is to make sure that our team can query this table so that anyone with access to this database can now query it. So I'm just going to run /q, and that's going to quit out of this view right here. Now you may be kind of confused what in the world we just did there, and that's fair enough. So let's take a look at these 2 diagrams. Now the top box is notebook query, and essentially every time that you execute a cell, it scans thousands of rows from app customers and it aggregates them on the fly. From there, it shows you the results, and next time you want those results again, you have to execute the cell again. And then it does the entire thing all over again, and it's just this massive loop. Now the bottom box, or the dbt model, is different. This executes the SQL transformation and it stores the results in a real table, which we've called customer country summary. Now this table just sits in our database, and it means that anyone on our team can query it instantly. So there's no scanning, there's no aggregating, the data is already there. And when you're working with large data sets, that makes a big difference. All right, so that wraps up the video today. And if you liked it, make sure to like, subscribe, and check out the entire project in the description below. I'd recommend as you go through the project, make sure to fill in those questions, add in screenshots, because you get documentation that you can share on any platform, GitHub, LinkedIn, whatever you want, so that recruiters can see your work. Have an awesome day, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.